and welcome to the Veloccino podcast, where the best stories have not yet been written. Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
You are joining us at the end of another great week, in particular because we've had our latest podcast released that has purely been done, interviewed and delivered by Jem. So Jem, congratulations.
Thank you, guys. It was really good. I kept pestering Neil pretty much every single day. Is it out yet? Is it out? 5 a.m. awake. Niels, it's podcast day.
Horrible. I sleep until 10 usually, so I didn't see the message until late, but it was really good. Like, I'm really happy, really proud of you. Done so well. We got nothing but praise from like all different kind of social media channels, which was really good.
It was. And if anyone hasn't listened to it yet, and you're listening to this podcast, stop this podcast now and go back and listen to it, because it's some really interesting and insightful comments really from Alice on what it's like to be a sort of amateur but semi-professional, let's face it, cyclist, and the pressure that sometimes we put ourselves under, how we handle it, and what can happen. And I have to say big thank you as well to Alice, because I think it was very brave to touch on some of the topics that she covered, but brilliant podcast. So well done, Gemma.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, the only thing I was going to add really, that Alice was really brave and honest about what she said, and she made my job easy. It was brilliant.
Excellent. That's really good. I mean, that's what we want to get out, right? Like, part of the reason why we enjoy our podcast is that we don't necessarily interview our partners. We want to have a conversation and get to the bottom of things. So that was like fantastic. Really proud. Really happy.
Great.
How you delivered. Really good. And to the listeners today, if you might notice there's a slight difference in sound quality. This is because Gemma's podcast was recorded before we entered lockdown in the UK. So that was basically face-to-face, where we had like slightly better options than now. Now we are recording via basically remotely via like a tool, and so you might notice a difference, but the quality of the content is still amazing.
Indeed. And also welcome to everybody who's now watching the YouTube channel for the first time. We are now live on YouTube as well. So I feel sorry for the people who are watching it live, to be honest, because then you'll see quite how chaotic it is, and how often it does genuinely look like this is the first time we've done it, even though this is now, I think, the 33rd podcast that's now been done. But we make it feel fresh every time, not that we actually make it look like we've never done it before.
Exactly. And to make it especially fresh, I went to the dentist today, where I got like a bit of a couple of injections. So you might see my funny face. This is especially for you guys.
Yeah,
we didn't like to say, but
yeah, just before
have a drink, Niels. Have a drink.
Yeah. Just before we started recording, we asked Niels to drink out of a cup, and it was just it was not pretty. So now he's drinking out of a bottle. So at least he can get that in his mouth and keep it there, which is good. Excellent. Well, look, that's what talking about the previous podcast. But what have we been doing with riding this week, guys? Who's been riding? Who's been not riding? What have we been doing? I'm assuming, Jem, that you've been continuing with your race series.
Yeah, we're still just over halfway through now this Zwift Racing League. We had a course this week, which was Everything Bagel in New York, which, if you know anything about Zwift, you'd probably dread. It's just full of hills. I think I lasted about 2 minutes, and then the first hill came up, and that was me back into 50th place already. But we're talking, a pro-am race here. But I was actually impressed with myself, because I didn't want to die after 2 minutes, and I just worked really hard but consistently the whole way, stuck with the same group of ladies, and I actually felt pretty good by the end of it, which is rare on one of these races. So I've done that, and then the rest of the week I've just been easy riding, really. I took a break last night, didn't time trial, and thought it would be a good idea to DS a team instead.
What was that?
What, sorry?
DS the team.
Oh, DS the team.
DS.
I'm with you. B-A-
Guys, you're both English. You should understand each other.
Neil's got it.
I understood.
Okay, I missed it. So you were DSing for a team, and what was it like? Was that the first time you've done it?
It was actually, and I've obviously had experience of being DS'd and what that's like. And I thought this will be fine. I'll just jump on at the last minute. Well, I was quite nervous actually, and I suddenly thought, what if I can't see the riders and I can't do this? But we'd got a plan. I talked them through it, and I had a really good group of women. They worked incredibly hard last night. I pushed them a lot towards the end, and I could definitely hear that. But I got just as much fun out of it actually, and I sat here and drunk a cup of tea and DS'd. So I was pleased. It's something I would definitely recommend it. It was brilliant.
It's good. Mike, did you go riding at
No.
all? Over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I've managed to get out a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, but so I've kind of done like one Zwift ride and one mountain bike ride, which isn't very much for me. But I also worked out last week, I think I had more pizzas than I had rides, which I think is like when you've eaten more pizzas in a week than you've done bike rides, that's not like
And
the
your
pizza ride ratio is not
high.
great.
Yeah.
I feel like you normally have to earn your pizza, if you know what I mean. Quite literally on Zwift, don't you, with the pizza slices thing?
Oh, yeah.
So no, not
That's a
been
good
doing
point.
quite so much. What about you, Niels? You been out?
No, I honestly can't remember. I think I went out last Friday maybe for a mountain bike ride. Just lost a bit of motivation. Work has picked up quite dramatically, so my main job was quite tough. And yeah, I just also with the weather, change of like to winter time, didn't add up much for motivation and things. But I'm going back to Swifting now. So basically, trying to get a bit more fitness here, because the one day when I went out, as I said, like I don't know, maybe last Friday, I realized I need this fitness back from somewhere, and I think Swift is the way to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, definitely for me. Well, I think maybe there's probably, talking to other people as well, there's a few of us out there that are got to a stage where, just as you get out of those nice warm summer days, luckily in the northern hemisphere we get some fabulous summer evenings that go on till it's still light at 10 o'clock at night, so you can always go out for a ride. And we've had a great summer in terms of how warm it's been as well. So I think there's quite a few people that get to this stage of the year, and in particular a year like 2020, where it's not always been like smooth sailing, and just struggle with that motivation to keep going, just as Niels and I are at the moment. But the thing is, Jem, you seem to manage to keep going. So maybe there's something you can do to help us, inspire us in our motivation, and the rest of the listeners that are perhaps feeling in the same way.
Well, I think we could probably give it a good go. I guess everyone's motivated differently, and I might be able to help you guys work out what motivates you, and might hopefully ring true with some of the listeners as well.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, you do actually do quite a lot of coaching, don't you, particularly for running coaching. So come on, perhaps there's a sort of some questions we can ask ourselves to help us find that motivation and mojo again, because at the that'd be good.
I think there's lots of different things that motivate you to ride your bike, and it might not just be getting better. A social motivation, a family, a release from work, something to do with the technical side of it, just actually really liking the bike and how it works. What do you think motivates you, Mike?
That's a good question. I think what keeps me motivated... Pizza. Yeah, earning the pizza. Although I've now realised I can eat the pizza without earning it. So
let's scrap that off.
That's gone out. Do you know what? I think there's so many different aspects of it, because I do quite like the technical aspect, the engineering, putting bikes together and taking them apart. I really like the social aspect, because I think one of my favourite feelings in the world is like after a really hard day of riding, that point when you're sat down and you can feel the humming in your legs, and you can still feel you're a bit sweaty, but you're sat down in a pub with your mates having a laugh about either the climbs that you did, or if you're in Bike Park Wales, like who came closest to death that day, kind of thing.
So that's your motivation.
yeah, but it's kind of those moments of like the social side is really motivational with people, and then the other part for me is genuinely is the fitness part, or working towards a goal quite often, so like if I know I'm for instance, we were hoping to do Grinduro this year, and that really kept me going quite a lot, because I was thinking, right, I want to turn up and give a good account of myself, don't want to turn up and be shit or shitter than I could be. And then that fitness part, that's what really drives me. And then that fitness part, because I'm sure like most cyclists, there's that element of when you're really suffering almost, but you're just on the edge of keep going. There's actually it's when the endorphins release and all that kind of stuff, isn't it? That's pretty good. So it's kind of a few different things that probably sort of motivate me to actually enjoy cycling, which I'm sure at least one of those is similar to other people.
I think so. There's quite an important point. It's fairly rare that we're motivated by sort of intrinsic factors. So just you being a person, going out on your bike, coming back and enjoying it. You may think that that's what you do, but every time you get a reward for that, whether it's from someone else or mostly social media, it's actually an extrinsic factor, and that might play into why you're being motivated to go and ride. It's not good, it's not bad, it doesn't matter either way, but I think we forget about it. It's very rare to find a person who just goes out purely or every single time to ride that bike just intrinsically motivated. I don't know, Niels, what slightly different for you? Do you think now you know about it, what do you think? Do you think you always have that extrinsic motivation of coming back? It's a little bit different. You come back and you tell your family about it, or there's some reward. If you're younger, you often get a reward from parents, money.
Well, during summer, my motivation is actually just to go out, because I really enjoy like cycling in like nice fair weather. I really enjoy that, like as Mike mentioned earlier, like a long summer evening, just going out riding. It's just not too hot, not too cold, like maybe with a couple of friends, just enjoying myself. And then also the other factor is and I found myself in this as well, like with Grinduro or Girona Cycling Festival. These were like events that I want to work towards and I wanted to do well, especially, with Veloccino on the chest. You have to deliver. You have to deliver. But
there's nothing bad about it. It's just
I think with all this being cancelled, it was difficult. And then when we, I think, now entered the second lockdown, and the winter time has changed, or the time has changed, and all of this being away, I think it just feels so far away to practice for something, and then also like the time aspect. I think I am not, and I was never really a person say like, okay, 9 o'clock, this is my time, I go for an hour. For me, it's more like, oh, okay, it's I feel like I might go out now. So yeah.
It is difficult when we don't have we often always have a goal or an event to train for, a distance or something, and that has been taken away. I know we've talked about it before on some podcasts, but that's been taken away from quite a few of us now, and particularly like Neil said with the change in season, it's really difficult. So we have to look at what we can be motivated by, and sometimes this changes. You may not have just one motivation like that you're going to work towards and you're going to be amazing and work towards that for 6 months. It might change daily, weekly, but if you have those strategies almost that you can call on of things that can motivate you, you can pick from them each time you need to get on your bike and use them.
That's cool.
What I might do. So today I might be riding my bike. I have no other aim apart from it's pizza night tonight. So therefore I'm going to get on my bike for half an hour. That's my one motivation for tonight. But it's not going to be the same motivation tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going out with the girls, well, one of them, and that's my motivation tomorrow. So it'll be different. So we probably need to work out what motivates you and how you can call on that at different times during your life and your training, I suppose.
So in terms of that motivation part, it's probably therefore it's recognizing that you need a mix of motivation, not just one thing. And if we've lost, for instance, the goals that we would want to set ourselves, competitive goals, that we perhaps just need to try and work out different goals to motivate us towards. Because I mean, the nearest thing I had was I decided I was going to try and ride my unicycle, learn to ride my unicycle, which I've got. That lasted about that lasted about 20 minutes, and then it just hurt really badly. So I've kind of taken one step back, and perhaps I can sort of finally learn to wheelie on a bike. It's almost embarrassing that I can't. So perhaps, so that's the kind of motivation to at least get out on the bike, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess maybe we could build it in. So I would always start with, what do you think your strengths are? I'm not going to say on the bike, around cycling, and maybe get you to think a bit wider about this. So hit me with what you think they are, and Niels can agree or disagree possibly, and let's see how we get on.
He doesn't have any strength.
Harsh.
Yeah.
I was hoping, Niels, you were going to be the kind of friend that...
No, I think his biggest strength is not falling off.
Yeah, it's amazing. I can't. Yeah, not falling off is probably it. No, I think that's a good question actually. I guess my strength is probably somewhere in being sort of a bit of an all-rounder, because I think I can kind of descend on a bike pretty quickly for a road biker, but not as fast as some people. And then on a mountain bike, I can climb up a hill pretty quickly, not as quick as like the fastest, if you know what I mean. So because I do a few different disciplines, it's the fact that I can sort of get the different things sort of to share about. I think that's part of it. I think the thing that I'm probably, if there's any strengths around cycling, I really do enjoy the bike maintenance type stuff and putting that together.
People forget, they, like, you almost just dismissed it then. Oh, it's just the bike maintenance. Not necessarily a motivation, but people forget that actually being good at that is a real strength in cycling, because you can be that person who, like when you're out on a group ride, when we can do those, people can just call on you, and you can be that person to help. And also it saves a lot of stress, time and money if you can fix your own bike. So don't underestimate that that's actually a strength around cycling. So, it's not always just about power or speed. So keep that as part of it. It may not be a motivator, but it's certainly a strength. And if it's something you enjoy, then it's a real strength because you enjoy it as well.
I think what you're saying is that because I'm saving so much money by working on my own bikes, I can actually justify buying another bike, right?
Haven't quite said
that's
that,
what
but
that's what I'm hearing.
That might be a motivation to do some more. But also, what do you think you're like at your planning and organizing, or committing to training or things like this? You know, does that work quite smoothly for you, or is that something you feel you have to concentrate on? I feel like Niels already gave us a clue to his planning and organizing.
Well, I just want to basically add to Mike's. I think where I also see his strength is like his bike handling skills. This is like phenomenal. Like when we go to a bike park, like Swindle Forest or whatever, and there's a couple of jumps, and a couple of 12-year-olds are jumping around, and then Mike comes along with his like melange gray hair, and they're like basically they basically want to say like, hey, what do you want to do? And then you basically give them the beans. Like he's really, really good. It's so funny, like Santa on a bike. It's really so this is definitely a strength of him, and he's really good in stuff like that.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Sometimes we underplay it. Mike didn't mention that straight away, but it sounds like that's one of his strengths, and hopefully you enjoy it as well. And we do sometimes underplay those strengths.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I think the coming back to your question about the structure of how structured I am in terms of training. I think I'm pretty good at forming a habit and then sticking to it. But then when I lose that habit, I lose it completely. So in the past, when I've trained for other sports, training 5 nights a week, playing on a weekend, and then sort of like a long recovery run on a Sunday, that was very much part of just what I did. So once I'm into that rhythm, I think I can keep a structure going. I think the challenge part is probably perhaps I've lost all of the other consistency. So I think particularly for 2020, for many people, we're now working differently. We're now socializing differently and all those sorts of things. And perhaps one of the things for me is that because of that's all changed, it's made it less easy for me to schedule in like almost really consistent things. So things like, I used to go to the gym like at least 3 times a week sort of before lockdown for an hour. I mean, obviously I could only ever lift the twiglet weights that they have there, you know, the really little ones. And I'd spend most of my time, like every other millennial that I've seen in the gym, not lifting weights, but sitting on a bench, taking photos of myself to post on Instagram. But
Pretty much what people do, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I had such a funny situation the other day. Not the other day. Actually, it's like maybe 5 years ago in the gym, where there was this guy and he was like taking selfies of himself, like really squeezing, like tensing his muscles in front of the like mirror, and he didn't really have muscles. And then this other guy came, and they didn't know each other, but this other guy felt, I think, like a bit of ashamed or like sorry for him. So he went to him, like put his arm around him and said, like, dude, if you squeeze a little harder, you might shit.
Oh my god.
Anyways, yeah. So I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, I almost wanted a gym poster actually at one point that said, if you're on the workbench on your phone, you're just on a different type of sofa. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's a good point.
Anyway, sorry, that's my little rant. So yeah, coming back to your question, yeah, I can be disciplined, but I think I've probably lost that discipline. And once I've lost it, I've really struggled to get it back as a positive habit.
I think sometimes what we forget to do is, you mentioned that in the past, I was able to train these 5 days a week and go to the gym. And it feels like sometimes if we can't do that, we don't do anything at all, because we think we can't train 5 days a week and I can't go to the gym 3 times a week anymore. I'm just going to go. Not at all. Absolutely understandable. You know, that happens to all of us. So we have to change our expectations a little bit as well, and about how much we can do. Because if I said to you now, right, that's it, Mike, I'm only going to make you commit to riding once a week, in your head you might think that's not a lot. But actually, if you're not riding any times a week, then 1 time a week is still better than that, and you were still being more consistent than you were a few months ago. But it, you know, I think we just think if I'm not all in, I'm not doing it at all. Doesn't seem like it's enough.
You know what, that's a really good comment. I've not really thought about it like that, because I think, like, particularly with road cycling, often, you know, if you've not got 3 hours, you're like, well, what's the point? What's the point in going out and doing a lap for 45 minutes? Well, what's the point? Which sounds terrible, doesn't it, really, when you think about it? Actually, do 45 minutes and enjoy it. Do 20 minutes on a static bike and enjoy that. That's a really good point. So perhaps just, rather than trying to schedule in as much time as before, just scheduling in smaller amounts probably makes more sense.
Yeah, consistency trumps everything. Trumps good bike, trumps the best coach and training in the world. If you're consistent, you will improve, if that is your goal. Not everyone's goal is to improve. Some people just want to be motivated and go out to ride, but consistency wins over everything, basically.
I can second it actually, because there was this one year where I was really proud of my performance. It was when we did the half Ironman Mallorca. I've done a couple of them, but there was one year that was where I was really, really pleased, because it was like a sub 6 hour event, and also considering I don't run, right? I don't do run training, so I walked most of it. So my bike was really, really good, and I basically lead that back to the whole winter preparation, where I basically forced myself to be on the turbo trainer at least half an hour every day. It was most of the time, it was exactly half an hour, but but that basically like brought so much. And on top of that, also what is not to underestimate was, at that time I was working in London. I took the train to Marylebone and then cycled like 2.5 miles to the office and back. So that is like 5 miles a day, which is like 25 miles a week, and 100 miles a month. And this is stuff that you should also not underestimate.
I think so, because if someone had said to you, you'd said to someone, I'm training for a half Ironman and I cycle 5 miles to work, they'd look at you and be like, got a way to go, buddy. But because it all adds up and you knew it was working towards something, actually that did really help, and it was worth you riding that 5 miles to work every day.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, looking back, my main motivation was because I really dislike running so much that I said like, oh, I have to smash the bike. Otherwise, like, it will be horrible.
I can just imagine the way you describe. I mean, Niels, I do know that you run slightly faster than you let on the podcast, but the way you describe it, I feel like everyone else is getting off the bike and like quickly putting on those running shoes, and you know, they're all in their speedos and they're off and they're running. I feel like you're putting on like a nice pair of comfy walking boots, put on your big shorts, a nice big floppy hat, Hawaiian shirt, and you've kind of like got like a flask over one shoulder.
And he's like, don't worry, I smashed the bike.
It was exactly like that. You remember the show we recorded with Nick Clark about where he said he's running, or when he runs, he looks like Phoebe from Friends.
Yeah.
I walk like Phoebe from Friends. Anyway, so this year when I did the half Ironman, it was a situation where, you know, I was so slow in running because I walked most of it, that people asked me about my story. So it's like, so what's your story? I was like, what do you mean? And then this one guy was like, oh, I just lost like 120 kilograms. So, and I was honestly, I was like considering telling them, I just overcame my drug addiction or something, just to, you know.
You need a story.
Because I didn't know what to tell them. I just hate running.
Did you have to pretend that like, yeah, that's not my real foot. My foot, I lost my foot. Like in a war.
Because you can't possibly be that slow unless you have a story.
Yeah, this is honestly, this is not just for like a quick giggle or a joke. There was a guy in a wheelchair sitting on the side of the track to support some of his mates, and he shouted actually at me and said, even I could run faster. And I was like, so that was really like, I was like, oh, thanks, mate. That's exactly what I needed. And then he had a dog also sitting next to him, and I was like, oh, the next thing is like he's chasing his dog after me or something. Anyways, let's change the topic again. Sorry for that.
So coming back
I was going to ask Mike what you thought you weren't so good at then, and actually in two parts, which I forgot to ask about. The other one was so what you think you're not as good at, and possibly what you don't enjoy. They might not be the same. Think about those two things.
That's a good question. I think if I think of what I'm not good at, it's probably
less good.
Yeah, less good at. It's probably power, if I'm honest. So whenever I look at watts and compare with other people of sort of similar size or age, or people that I've ridden with over the years, their power output is always a lot higher than mine. And that's one of the things for me where I keep thinking, right, I really want to pick up my power rate. So I guess that would be like FTP kind of thing, because I think like if I can just improve that by about sort of 20%, something like that, I think that'll make a massive difference for me. And then I think the only other thing for me, probably in terms of training and things that I'm not quite so good at, is probably discipline with food. So the whole and then that's the bad side, the bad way around, isn't it? You know, you're kind of not disciplined with food, that's going to slow you down anyway, and then you don't ride enough and that slows you down, and those sorts of things. So does that answer your question? Is those the kind of things you're looking for?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, something like saying about power, it can get into quite technical things, and obviously we'd be happy to talk about that another time. But I was going to ask you think that you want more power, and yet you've told me that you're quite good at going up a hill quick, which you need power for. So I'm wondering if it really does affect you in the real world, and if it doesn't, maybe to not be quite so hung up on it. It might not be one of the things that's at the top of your list. If it really is, absolutely concentrate on it and do it. But does it really affect you in the real world when you go out on the bike, or do you think it does?
No, it's a very good question, because no, it doesn't actually. It doesn't. I don't often feel on a ride like I'm being dropped by the same people who, when I look at power rates, they've got more power than me, if that makes sense. I mean, obviously if I'm with somebody who's really quick, of course I'll get dropped, but no, I don't feel kind of like out of my depth or like I'm losing out from it. So that's a good point actually, although I'm curious that I want to have more, because I can see that if I improve that, I could probably be faster. But you're right, I'm not really losing out at the moment. I'm not sat there wishing I could catch somebody on a climb or anything like that.
And remember, no one actually knows.
Sorry, the slight interruption there from my dog. Carry on, Gemma, sorry.
Which one? Manu or the other one?
that is my dog called Daisy. Sorry, everybody, who's being a complete little shitbag. So bear with me 1 second while I just ask her to be a bit quieter. 1 minute.
Give a shout.
That's okay. It's absolutely fine. This is why when we record on YouTube, you definitely have to wear pants.
Oh yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
well stuck now if my dog barked.
You're not wearing pants.
Oh, I am. He's back.
I'm not.
That's very quick. Is the dog still alive?
The dog's fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm going to shut another door.
Oh.
And he's not wearing pants.
The dog is fine. The dog is absolutely fine. She's just keen to make sure that nobody ever comes anywhere near our house at the moment. That's all. So sorry.
It's a good trait in a dog.
It is. It is.
What I was going to say was that no one can actually tell what power you have on your bike. I know we have things like Strava and Garmin and, power meters and things, but no one actually knows. You're not out on a ride and halfway through someone says, I'm doing 400 watts. What are you doing? Oh, Mike, I'm only doing this. It's a different dynamic. You're either out there to enjoy it or you're out there to ride as a group or stay together or be in a race. No one actually knows. So it doesn't mean that it's not important to you, but maybe you can think about it in a different way.
No, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. So perhaps, perhaps thinking about other things that I can be improving, such as some of the skills like my wheelie. I just really would like to be able to do a wheelie.
I'm definitely going to come on to it.
I think you should start with shaving your legs.
Shaving my legs?
Definitely, yeah, will make you put you in the mindset of being like a better rider.
Yeah, I think also because, I am pretty much like one of those dwarves from from Lord of the Rings or something like that. I'm pretty short and hairy, so I reckon if I shave my legs, I reckon that would probably would take a couple of kilos off.
Most probably.
That's a lovely image for everybody, isn't it?
Disgusting.
You said about food as well, and I don't know whether food and nutrition comes in a few parts. What we eat on and around the bike that we're doing, and then outside of that, I guess. So mainly on longer rides, but sometimes these short ones as well. Food and nutrition can be a barrier because you've done all the great work and you're not fueling or refueling correctly, and actually you might kind of waste what you've done. So if that element is coming into it, then it might be something you want to improve. If you're just thinking about the fact that actually you eat too many pizzas and it's not to do with the ride as such, then it's a different element, isn't it? It's something different to think about. But some people have real problems with food because they just can't simply, they're out on the bike and they're trying to go further and faster and they haven't got the right food on them, or they forget to do it. They're not organized. So that is an area that you can work on that seems really small, but it makes a big difference to your riding. When you get back from the ride, have you got something ready to go to eat, or actually is the cupboard bare and you just grab the first thing you see and then you forget about it until you have a beer and a pizza later?
That
just
is a really
tiny change would improve your riding.
That's a very good point, actually. Something I've got probably out of the habit of as well is making sure that I've got sort of nuts and things like that ready for when I want to get back, because it's good protein to get in and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's a good point. I have to say, on the longer rides I've done, I've always, the first really long ride I did, I absolutely died. I had no idea how much water I was supposed to take, that taking food would be a good idea at all. Just did not think that through. And it was a mountain bike ride, and it was going to take me about sort of 6 or 7 hours to do. And it took me a lot longer than that because I completely bonked completely, and still was in the middle of the woods, still had to ride like 20k completely empty, and just those moments where there's just, it feels like every climb is just going to go on forever. You're just not moving anywhere, like in a dream. Every single pedal stroke doesn't seem to take you anywhere. So since then I have recognized, so when I do longer rides, I actually have a timing of it. So I set myself a time as to how much I'm going to eat by the end of this point. So for example, I take particular chewy bars that I know work well with my digestion. So then I'm like, right, so I'm going to have every so on the hour, I know after a start on the hour I need to eat something every 45 minutes from that, like these little bars. So sort of I start
So
eating
you
it.
are good at
not the
that.
time.
You forgot to mention that's one of your strengths. You see, you can eating on the bike.
Eating on the bike, yeah. That definitely works for longer distances for me, yeah.
Well, that's good.
It's
That's
really
really
good.
good.
For me, it was actually other way around, because I actually also come like from the more mountain bike kind of way into the road cycling stuff. So when I met my wife Hannah in South Africa, basically I thought like, oh, I also start road cycling, and for mountain biking I was used to use like these hydration water bags, hydration
Yeah,
bags,
hydration
backpacks.
packs.
Yeah. So for the first ever road ride with all her friends and stuff, I rocked up with this massive backpack with my bladder in there and stuff, and it was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I just don't want to die." Like, anyways, yeah, I looked like a fool, like most of the time. No, anyways.
But in your strengths, you were well prepared.
There you
Oh,
go.
no, I
Yeah.
just was underprepared because I have no clue. I should have maybe looked into what road cyclists are wearing and stuff. But
We all
I
make
know.
mistakes. I'm not sure if I told you two. The reason it's 3 reasons I started cycling. One, got injured through running, happens all the time. But the main incentive for me was you get to dress up like a superhero, and you
Yeah.
get to eat
When you have a
whilst
Veloccino jersey, not
Yeah.
with this Lovello stuff.
both, and you get to eat whilst exercising.
Yeah.
Oh.
This
I
is
can't think two good things. That was the 2 draws for me: superhero, eat whilst exercising.
And I have to say, if anyone does follow Gem on Instagram, you'll see some delightful food options that she's posted of different things. Although the one thing I haven't yet been tempted by is your porridge and egg thing.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I'm going to have to run out of a lot of food in the house before I get to that one. But I will one day give it a go.
I'll make you some when we come back from a ride one day. Porridge and egg will be waiting. I normally have it before actually, and you won't even notice it's got an egg in it.
Brilliant.
You might, because I've made it and you'll get suspicious now. I've said it, but
well, I look forward to it. So yeah, so coming back to your question, I guess for me it was in terms of sort of like weaknesses, areas of weakness for me. I think for me it was a sense of power, but I think after that your chat, you're right, it's probably not that. And so yeah, in terms of my weaknesses, I think probably is the longer distances. Maybe that might be, although actually I'll do a fair amount of that as well.
difficult. Well, I'll stop you there because you can tell me instead what things stop you getting on the bike, because you've already told me a minute ago that you haven't been on the bike as much as you would like. Doesn't mean that we need to do 7 days a week. So what do you think at the moment is stopping you getting on the bike?
I think see, now when I'm going to answer to this, I think there's an element of me answering what I think stops me getting on the bike, and probably what I'm making up that is stopping me getting on the bike, if
We
that
can
makes
do
sense,
both.
like the same things. So for me, there's an element of family. So making sure I'm here for the kids, different timing stuff. Our kids do different sports themselves. My wife does sports as well. So just that kind of routine part of that. Although I also think if I ever said to them, I'm going out for a ride at this time, at no point has anyone ever said, you know, that's not really a barrier. I mean, might have to change the time slightly or at night, but in all honesty, I'm probably using that as a bit of an excuse. There's probably a little bit of it gets to 8 o'clock, and if I haven't ridden by 8 o'clock, in my mind I'm thinking
It's
there's
tomorrow.
no point going
May as well not bother.
no point now. Let's just write off the day. Tomorrow's going to be awesome. I'm going to be out by 6 and I'm going to be riding till 9. Fantastic. And then the next day rolls around, it gets to 8. I'm like, well, I've missed my start time. Sod it. Tomorrow though, I'm going to be really good. So I think there's an element of that's probably there. And then probably the other thing that stops me going out is, and these are probably 2 things about which probably are the real reasons really, is one is because I've not been riding very much, I know I'm going to be slower than I was before. And I think because all of us, particularly in cycling, a lot of us sort of benchmark ourselves about whether we're getting worse. And sometimes I feel like if I go out now, all I'm going to do is get reminded of how bad I am. Do you know what I mean now? How much I've fallen away. And then the other part is, as much as I said, one of the things I really like is that point when you're sweating and you're on the edge of your, cardiovascular systems trying desperately to keep up, and you're on a climb. And it also, if it's raining and if it's windy, I love that moment. But when I'm in the nice warm house, kind of motivating myself to get to that stage,
it feels very far away, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I guess so really the two things that are holding me back in terms of motivation to ride is, one, I'm so slow at the moment, kind of I can't motivate myself. And then secondly, probably that kind of feeling of, I'm going to have to properly suffer before I get to the bit of feeling good.
Also, and I realized that since I'm not commuting anymore, before it was on my commute home, I was always like thinking like, oh, I want to go for a ride. I want to go for a ride. I want to go for a ride. And then the moment I came home, I jumped on my bike and did something. If I would come home and sit down on the couch, that was it. I wouldn't then go riding anymore. But now this element of like being really excited to make the most out of this few short little window where I could go riding is gone, right? Because you're home most of the time. That it's very difficult to pick the right time to go riding.
I think that's true. I think a good place to start for everybody when they've worked out, we've had a good chat now about what you think you're good at, where we're not necessarily sure where you want to go. I think we might come on to that in a minute, and what some of your weaknesses are that you might want to address and what stops you going on the bike. My next question, I guess, would be, ignoring the fact that you think you're going to be slow and etc., what realistically do you think you would like to commit to on, it doesn't have to be a weekly basis, it may be, because most people's schedules do work on a week, but it might not be. So what do you want to do, or what do you think you can accomplish within each week, or maybe by the end of the month, that would actually be realistic for you? And think about it differently. So you might live close to a really short hill, and although that doesn't sound like a very nice session, you could say to the family, is it okay if I just go out for 45 minutes before dinner, or whenever you want to do, I'm just going to ride up and down that hill as many times in 45 minutes. If you get a puncture, it doesn't matter. Okay, it's not entirely enjoyable, but if it's raining, again, doesn't really matter, you're not far from home, it's not windy. So thinking about different types of sessions, you don't have to go out and do this 3-hour long ride all around everywhere, and that you're never going to do that at 8 o'clock at night. So, but it's got to be motivational for you as well, but maybe start thinking about it a bit differently.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think probably this time of year, I think if I set myself the objective of trying to do 3 times a week, I mean, bearing in mind I'm coming from nothing at the moment, if I could just ride 3 times a week, and almost any distance, and each of those 3 times was at least 45 minutes, that would probably work at the moment, because I can probably mix that up between a bit of a turbo session if I need to, but ideally being outside 3 times a week would be my...
I'd probably scale it back even more and say to yourself, I'm going to get on my bike twice a week for at least 45 minutes. In your head, if you do that 3rd session, totally nailed it. But 3 is, that's almost every other day. And although, again, we all think, oh, that should be really easy to do, to go from nothing to 3 is still quite a big, that's like a triple jump, basically, going from nothing to 3. So why don't you say twice a week, I'm going to get on, you don't even have to give yourself a time. Twice a week, I'm going to get on my bike. And you need to put some things in place to make sure that you are going to be able to do that. It might be get your kit out, literally place it. I have people that literally place it on their bike or their turbo trainer. So your towel is ready, your drink is ready, your sweatband is whatever you need, your fan is ready. So it is the minimum of thinking time between maybe finishing work or getting out of bed and getting on your turbo or on your bike, because all those other steps that you have to take are going to put you off.
Yeah,
I have a really good remembrance that so when I used to live in Cape Town and we went riding every morning before work at like 6:30 or something, I had to go to bed in bib shorts. Just otherwise I wouldn't make it in the morning. So, and then in the morning it was like, honestly, Hannah just like, stole the blanket, put a banana in my mouth, and then like, there we go. And then put me basically on my bike. We were riding, everybody said like, morning, morning, morning. And I was like, okay, after 15 minutes, I then woke slowly up, but I did it.
Yeah, you did it, you got it done. So sometimes there is a bit of prep required and we don't always want to do that, but
true.
I promise you the time that when you have to go on the bike, oh, it will be so much easier. You know what it's like, the turbo's not work. Like yesterday, my turbo wasn't working and then the internet went, and I must have wasted like 20 minutes, and then my motivation went from up here, I was ready to do this turbo, to like minus, I was not ready in the space because I hadn't set it up. I didn't have the time to set it up the night before. And I think that twice a week thing seems like something that would be really achievable.
You're right. I think that is definitely achievable, and I can also things like, I guess, make sure my lights are always charged.
Yes.
That kind of thing, just to make sure that I'm ready to go as soon as So
and I know it sounds really simple. If I said to someone, do you always have your lights charged for your bike? They'd be like, yeah, of course I do. And then the next thing you know, actually, oh no, I haven't looked at that since last Sunday, and oh, it doesn't work, and it's still muddy from last week, and it's just awful, and I can't do it. So try and make things easy for yourself. You enjoy riding, you want to do it, so you have to put a little bit of effort in to make it easy and make sure that when you're on that ride, you're really enjoying it.
Do you know what? That's a really, really good point. So I will definitely. So make sure that I've got everything ready. Commit to just doing 45 minutes twice a week, because in my head I'm already thinking, yeah, I can do that. I can definitely do that. And then if I do get a third session in, then I'm not just achieving my target, I'm actually exceeding it, and I can give myself like a
pizza,
a pat on the back, a high five.
And you don't, at this stage, because we're only really talking about gaining motivation, we're not talking about entering the Olympics. We're talking about you improving the main focus is you to improve your motivation. So I don't really mind what you do on the bike for those 2 sessions that you have, or 2 rides that you go out on. Probably think beforehand, because if you're not sure what you're going to do, that slows you down as well. So maybe some preparation about exactly where you're going to go and what you're going to do. But it could be a loop. It's easy, or it could be going out with, at the moment, one other, but get ready and just prepare it twice a week. Do it.
It's really good. But also saying that the Olympics are moved to the next year.
So you've got longer, Mike.
Oh, great. So I've got time to recover and be ready for the Olympics. That's good. That's
twice a week is going to get you there.
Yeah, exactly. Twice a week, 45 minutes. I mean, how hard can the Olympics really be? Let's face it.
So how are we going to be able to tell that you are committing to this? Are you committing to it, first of all? How does it sound? So you said it sounds good.
It does sound good. And I think thinking of this different approach to what I should be looking at and what I should consider a success, if you like, which is actually, rather than going out and blasting and hitting some massive power focus that I've got, actually, really, the truth is, I just need to be on the bike and outside twice a week for 45 minutes. And if I manage to achieve that, then that's going to get me in the right place. And then, as you said, the making sure I've got things set up so to make that as seamless and easy as possible. That is all working. Yeah, no, I'm really committed to it. I really want to make it happen. And actually, I think your first question's about habit and how good am I at structuring stuff. And the fact that I was sat here saying I used to be good at it, then it means I can be good at it again. So I think what I need to do is I need to probably book 2 nights a week in the diary, if you know what I mean, where I know I'm going to be out for 45 minutes. And then if it has to shift, it has to shift. But at least I've got that time planned as a starting point. So no, I'm definitely up for it. In terms of how I get to know how committed I am, I mean, what do you suggest? How do you, are there any tricks to not force people to be committed? That sounds terrible, but help people get them fulfill the commitment that they've made or anything like that?
I think everyone's different. Some people, I've got some friends and people I work with that have a cycling diary, and they put everything in it. I see some things pop up that say, today I've got to do my uni work or something, but then I'm going to go on the bike. Like, it's in order, it's really, and other people just know they're going to do it in their head. They've got it down. Other people might put it on the family calendar. These 2 dates I'm going to do. You might put it in your work calendar so you can see it as it's a meeting. I know it's nothing to do with work, but something like that, if that works for you. A post-it on your fridge or your screen at work telling you set an alarm to stop yourself working, or get up in the morning, whatever it might be. Something like that, would that work?
Yeah,
different for everybody, definitely.
There's some really good ideas there. I think the two things that probably work for me is, number one is the putting it on the communicating to my family that I want to do this is probably the first thing, and putting it up on the fridge, because I know that my two daughters, because they play sport as well, so if I put up something that says I'm going to train 45 minutes twice a week, they will abuse me if I don't.
There you go.
Just like typical.
That's a good one.
Father. So I definitely do that. And then, because I think that will certainly work. And also, I think the post-it note actually on my work computer, because I think maybe for some of us that are working at home a lot, and particularly through lockdown, we do blur the lines between when's the end of the working day and when does the evening start. So actually having that constant note just somewhere on my laptop screen or my computer screen, just nearby, just to remind me what I'm actually trying to achieve here, which is 45 minutes twice a week. That will probably remind me when I'm working and it gets dark outside that, no matter what I'm working on, it's probably better for my health, and I'll probably be better at work if I do get out twice a week.
And obviously, because you'll have everything ready, you'll just finish work and it will be seamless and off you go.
It will. It will. Do you know what? This has really helped. Thank you very much, Gemma. Really
good.
I hope so. It's really different for everyone, and we've talked through today some of the things that are going to motivate you. Everybody is different. People may completely disagree with things that you've come up with, and it may not work for them, but another group of people, they might have taken some things and be able to work on them and motivate them, I guess. But for you, I hope it's been useful.
It has. And for Niels, what about for you, mate? What's going to make you, what do you feel that's going to get you out riding a bit more often?
Well, I was listening very carefully because I could relate to most of the stuff that you were saying. I'm not committing to anything. No, but we had a conversation at home. Like, also, I think for me, it's more like the main bit that holds me back is the structure. I need structure again, and I was always fighting structure in riding, because it's, I think I've mentioned it in a couple of episodes before. I used to be a competitive canoer back then. And so my life from when I was 12 years old until I was 29 was really structured. And I told myself after I retired from the sport that I would never want to commit to a sport to that level. So I always told myself, like, no structure. I don't want structure. But now, with all these changes that happened during this year, I feel there must be structure if you want to enable you to enjoy your sport, if that makes sense. And so I will also do more riding. I will find a way to structure riding back into my day-to-day life.
I think
I've also just thought on my loop, depending on what loop I decide to put in, I could probably come past Niels's house and like post something through his letterbox every time I go for a ride, just telling him that I'm going for a ride, that he needs to get out and go for a ride, even if we can't ride together.
I was going to say that Niels doesn't sound like he's in quite the same space as Mike, whereas Mike was almost saying, I'm really ready to get out to do some more riding. Niels seems kind of, it doesn't mean that you don't care, Niels, it just, you're not in that place yet, because you've got other stuff going on and you're more motivated by some other things at the moment. So you might start at an even more basic level than that, and maybe one weekend you're going to get your winter bike out and you're going to check it's all okay, and that you're still motivated by it and it still ticks off a cycling box, but you don't need to ride yet, or you don't need to commit to that sort of riding. So it doesn't have to be even what we did with Mike that we thought was relatively simple. You might not even start at that level. You might just be ready to get some of your stuff out, or do have like your guys, do you like tinker with bikes in the garage? You know, that might be motivation enough for you. Put it away until next time I've got the space to ride, and then my bike will be ready and off I go.
Although while we are talking, actually, I received a message from our friend Jeremy, who was like, "Hey, are you going to hop on the mountain bike tonight?" So I might actually go riding tonight. So
Yes.
which is a good thing.
Perfect.
Excellent. Well, look, Gemma, that has been really useful. And I do hope for listeners, if you follow that same sort of set of questioning that Gemma was using, that hopefully some of this can help some of you as well with sort of motivation this time of year, thinking about what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and so on. So, Gemma, I guess would it probably be really good is when this podcast gets posted, if we can put probably in the notes just some of the questions that you asked, so that people could probably follow along at home and just kind of do their own way of picking themselves up with their motivation, being prepared.
That might work quite well, actually. And I think I can put down some notes about all of the areas that people might think about maybe that we didn't cover with you today. And I hope that's helpful for people as well.
I think it was really good. And to our listeners, you might have noticed by now it's a slightly different episode than what we have usually. So we didn't have an external guest. Today it was just like the three of us. First time actually talking together, which was to us really enjoyable, I guess. I think this will be a format that we will keep on doing moving forward. I don't know, how do we call this? Winter blues, winter vibes, winter vibes, winter vibrations.
Do you know what?
Winter vibrations, winter wines.
Niels, you've had so many injections in your mouth from the dentist today.
I struggle.
Don't try words. Just don't bother, mate. Just.
We did warn about the letter W.
Yeah.
You've gone straight in with winter.
That's why it's called Veloccino, not Veloccino. Anyways.
just so you know, listeners, every time he says the letter W, there is a very strange mouth movement going on, and there's like little bits of drool coming out the side of his face. Bless him. So there we go.
I have a bucket under me. Anyways, cool.
Right.
So on this bombshell, Mike.
Yes, indeed. And on this bombshell, we hope that everybody's enjoyed the show and finds a way to keep themselves motivated through the winter blues. And that if people want to get in touch with the podcast, what should they do? So, Niels, how do people get in contact?
Yeah, across social media @Veloccino is the easiest way of doing it. Send us an email to podcast@veloccino.com. Or if you want to reach out, send an email to Niels, Mike, or Gemma @veloccino.com. And please leave us a review. That really helps us. If there's one thing where you think like these guys do a really good job and I want to support them, leave a review.
Absolutely. And just as a follow-up, I've just thought in the last couple of minutes to make sure that you see if my motivation sticks. Every time I go for a ride, I'll take a photo on Instagram, which is mike.veloccino, and you'll be able to see if I manage to make it all stick. Final thing, of course, is the other way you can support us is head over to the shop. We've still got plenty of the socks in stock ready for Christmas, and some of the fantastic new t-shirts that we've got in. Niels is currently sporting one of the new t-shirts, and I also have the polo shirt on, which you can just about see if you're watching on YouTube. So
you know what, and also because Gemma is new in the show, we have this discount code Hidden Gem, 20% off of everything.
20% off. You know, there's no hidden mic. Like,
okay, hidden mic, 1% off.
1%. Great. Well, look, there you go, everybody. And on that bombshell, I've discovered what value I have to this show. But there we go. Anyway, right. Well,
it is what it is.
Niels has already said that he's off out riding. I think I'm going to keep this motivation going and get myself onto the turbo. And Gem, you are a training and race specialist. So what are you about to do this evening?
Eat pizza.
Eat pizza. Fantastic.
Genuinely, it's my rest day.
Fantastic. And on that rare occurrence that Niels and I are exercising whilst Gem is eating pizza, we will leave you because the best stories have not yet been written.